What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We are only about 5 days removed from the last out of the World Series, where the Dodgers became back-to-back champs against Toronto in Game 7 fashion. And here's my hats off to them, to the Dodgers. You guys are just a hell of a team, a juggernaut of a team. And honestly, at this point, it's a matter of who and when is somebody going to take them down to stop this snowball of a dynasty from getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So we'll see what happens this coming off season, which I want to touch on in this video. There's a lot of free agent news. There's a lot of trade rumors. There's a lot of manager moves already happening within these like five or so days. And of course, the looming salary cap debate with MLB officials and the MLB Players Association, which we'll talk about later in the video. We're talking about free agency. We're going to talk about the five big names coming out of the free agent class going into the next season. We got Kyle Schwarber, we got Kyle Tucker, Framber Valdez, Bo Bichette, and of course, the big name coming out of Japan, and Munetaka Murakami. Now, if you haven't heard that last name before, I need you to pause this video, open up another tab, and search him up. This kid is an absolute demon. He's about 25, 26 years old, so super young so far, and he can absolutely rake. This dude has power out of his mind. Any big team's gonna love to have him. Anybody who can pay him is gonna love to have him. Of course, big names like the Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, Padres, Toronto, maybe the Cubs. Whoever has the money to get him, by all means, go and get him. But I'm gonna kind of go down the list of the other names I mentioned, like Kyle Tucker. As far as Kyle Tucker, I know he's 28, and I've heard that he's expected to ask for a lot of monies in a long-term deal. He can possibly maybe reunite back in Houston, do something like Carlos Correa did, coming from the Twins back to Houston. Maybe somewhere else gives him that type of contract. Maybe the Yankees are trying to see what happens with Cody Bellinger, if he's deciding to come back or not. It's a lot of what ifs. I don't know if he's coming back to the Cubs. I don't know if he's going to go, but I I'm kind of split 50-50 with him. I can see him going back to the Cubs again, depending on how much money they offer him, how much money he wants, of course, and how long the deal. Now, Kyle Schwarber is another interesting name. He's getting a little bit older, but his bat is still there. All-Star game MVP, but put up like 60 bombs or something like that. I don't know, almost like 50 plus bombs in this regular season. Absolutely raking still as somebody at his age. I strongly think he's going to go back to Philadelphia. Maybe give him like a team friendly type of contract, since he is kind of like the vet on the team as well. And I can see him running it back with the Philadelphia Phillies. They got a great thing going on there, especially in the NL East where there's not a lot of competition. Like Nationals, super young. Marlins, super young. They're upcoming, though. I'm going to give them that, though. The Marlins are up and coming. Don't sleep on the Marlins, but they're still super young and unexperienced. The Mets, the Mets are the Mets. As you can see, what happened to them at the end of the season, the Mets are gonna Met. So if the Mets are series from game 1 to game 162, hey, let's see what happens. But for the most part, and I mean the Braves had a fall off season last year. I know injuries kind of hurt them, but I can see the Braves kind of making a comeback. But I feel like for the most part, it's still Phillies' division to lose. So they just run the NL East, and I can see him going back to run it back to hopefully, make it to the World Series and potentially win one with Philly before he probably calls it quits in the next coming years. If he does decide to go somewhere else and he does ask for more money, I could probably see him. I know there's been speculation that he can probably go to Boston. I feel like Boston's another good fit for him, especially with him being that lefty bat, that short wall brought in close there and with the pesky pole or whatever there in Fenway. He's gonna absolutely love that. I could see him definitely rocking the Red Sox uniform. I could see him there, and I feel like that'd be another good fit because I feel like Boston and Philly are kind of similar in fan bases. So we'll see what happens with that. Bo Bichette is kind of interesting in my opinion. Obviously coming off the World Series loss where he was injured majority of the playoffs and he did play in the World Series. And he had his moments, where he hit the home run and stuff. And I feel like coming off a game 7 loss, again, this is just me personally now. If I just lost and I'm going into free agency, I'm not looking to just up and leave. I don't know. I feel like especially with the team they got, with the culture they got and stuff, they can definitely make it back, or at least make another push in the next season, I would run it back with the team I started with. You know what I mean? Maybe maybe he signs for maybe another 2 years, 2 3 years or something like that. If he's looking for long term, so be it. I know he's still young at 28 as well. So we'll see what happens. Obviously he has to just get healthy, back to 100% this offseason. But I think for the most part, I can see him staying in Toronto. Maybe another type of person where he gives them kind of like a team friendly deal. I don't think he's really asking too much. He's very talented, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if he's asking like to be the highest paid free agent out of this class. I think whatever's going to suit him well, and I feel like if he's put right back in the same situation, so I feel like, in my opinion, he'll probably go back to Toronto. Framber Valdez, I don't know too much, honestly. I know he's a great pitcher, of course, coming out of Houston. I'm not too sure. I mean, I haven't really truthfully known too much about him. Um, he it's going to be a lot of attention on him. I know a lot. Starting pitching is at a premium right now. There's not a lot of big free agent names out there. So it's a matter of who really needs starting pitching and who's willing to pay top dollar or outbid everybody else. But for the most part, if no team's really interested in him or whatever, I can definitely see him probably going back to Houston, run it back a few more years or whatever, and see what happens. But let me touch back base on Munetaka Murakami again. Big name coming out of Japan, another big name following Roki Sasaki when he came over from Japan. And again, the big teams, the big market teams are basically going to be the teams in play here, right? Again, we got the Dodgers, we got Toronto, we got New York, Chicago, I think, the Mets. Like, there's a lot of big name, big market teams that can use this big power bat. He's broken the records in Japan. He's still super young at 26. Like, a lot of teams are going to be after him. And again, it's just going to be a matter of where he fits best or where he sees fits best. Again, I know probably the biggest speculation is that he's going to be going to the Dodgers, given the fact, again, that they have a little Team Japan in there. And with, of course, Shohei there, we got Yamamoto, Roki Sasaki. You know, it's a lot of, it's just like, it's right there. It's just right there. You want to go there. We all know it's more than likely probably going to be ending up on the Dodgers, and it's gonna be a big shock if he goes anywhere else. Truth, at least in my opinion, I don't know. Like again, any team can put up the big money for him. It's up to him at the end of the day. But my guess, if I had to guess, I feel like he's gonna end up a Dodger somehow, some way. So moving on to my second point of this video, I feel like there should be teams out there that should be making a push or should you know be pushing themselves to make big moves, big splashes in either, again, free agency or the trade market to put them over that hump of to get them to the next level, right? You get what I'm saying? Teams such as the Yankees. The Yankees definitely need a big splash this offseason. They had a mediocre run in the playoffs. They had a terrible season all throughout. Luckily, yeah, they did make the playoffs, but truthfully, it wasn't Yankee baseball, and everybody knows that. I'm not a super big Yankee fan. I'm a Yankee fan at like adjacent because of my cousins and stuff. Shout out to Alex and Shelley. But for the most part, the Yankees haven't been the same in a long time. It's about 17, 18 years since the last time they won. I think they won back in 2009. So it's a long time coming, and it's like they're getting up there, and Yankee fans are very impatient. They're not used to losing this much. They want rings, and you got to get them now while Judge is still in his prime. He's about to win his second MVP or his second or third MVP. I forget which one. You can't miss out on this type of time with Judge in his prime. He's one of the best right-handed hitters in a long time. You know what I mean? So they got to capitalize now. So they got to make big moves. Whether you bring back Cody Bellinger and bring in Kyle Tucker or one or the other, or you make a big splash, you go get Munetaka Murakami, let's say, or you go trade for, let's say, a better third baseman that can hit. No disrespect to Ryan McMahon, he's got a great glove, but I know Yankees are trying to get back to that Bronx Bombers era where they're every hitter is just gonna have 30 plus home runs type of shit. You know what I mean? Excuse my cussing. Sorry, I get like passionate when I talk baseball, but yeah. So I feel like the Yankees are definitely a team that need to make a big splash to keep up with these other teams such as Toronto, the Dodgers. You know, they definitely need to make that step to move forward. Another team I would say in kind of a similar spot, I would say it's probably the Padres, truthfully. Like, they're at this point being looked at as like the little brothers of the Dodgers. You know what I mean? Like they're always right behind them in the standings. Yeah, they put up a great game against them in the regular season, but when it counts, they always just choke away or fade away and like don't do anything. Like when they lost to the Cubs, I'm like, damn, like that's it. Like you guys lost to the Cubs in what, the wild card round? Like that's kind of disappointing. And they got a star-studded lineup too. They got Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts. You still got Fernando Tatis Jr. and a bunch of other role players. So it's a matter of like having this core right now and building around them, building around Manny, building around Fernando. Like keep adding pieces and get the right guys in the right places to win these games. So, I feel like the Padres definitely need to make a big push this coming off season to again get over that hump, not being seen as little brother to the Dodgers in the NL West. You know what I mean? Because NL West at this point, again, it's just ran by the Dodgers. You know what I mean? I think yeah, like it's just crazy. It's just really crazy. I feel like another team again too is probably Chicago. I would say too, like they're right there. Like they were with Milwaukee at a certain point in the season before Milwaukee just blew up and expanded their lead on the MLB. And I feel like they need to make some right moves, maybe some starting pitching, maybe another hitter or something in that lineup. Just making the right moves. So I feel like again the Cubs, Yankees, Padres, and of course I'm gonna just throw in the Marlins in there just because I really want to see the Marlins just say F it and take that next step and get at least into the wild card round. You know what I mean? I know we got in there a couple years or a few years ago now, but I want to see my Marlins make it in there a little bit more consistency. I know we have a lot of good young talented players, but I would like to see, some bigger bats or something like that, or better starting pitching or even a nice relief arm, to get us over that hump. If you're noticing why the background changed a bit, it's because I had to take a phone call real quick, but let me just jump back into the video so I can end it off. So speaking about my Marlins, I feel like the Marlins definitely need to take the right steps moving forward. You know what I mean? I know we're still kind of like in part two or year two of this rebuild or whatever, even though we had 79 wins and, we had a really great season, obviously didn't result in us making to the playoffs or anything, but we did have a great season given the fact that we weren't supposed to have a great season. So I feel like we definitely exceeded expectations as to what projections were going to be, with us probably being dead last, everybody getting sold away and everything. But I'm glad like, none of that happened and they had an even better season than anybody ever expected and I even expected. So I feel like this next season is definitely going to help solidify them like, hey, we are taking this big step to crack the world to crack the wild card spot. You know what I mean? To get into it and see what can happen. Make some noise. Because if you get hot come September or whatever, like anything can happen. So let's see what happens with the Marlins. I know they're coming after like for some first baseman, or even a third baseman. I know. I think I seen something that Eugenio Suarez could probably be a target. I doubt it. I know he just got to Seattle, so I doubt he'll be a Marlin, but anything can happen. First base market, I know Pete Alonso's a big first baseman name out there. I don't think we'll sign Pete Alonso because I know Pete Alonso's going to want a lot of years and a lot of money too, so I don't think that's going to work. We just definitely got to find a guy that fits the payroll that the Marlins are going to have and like fit the strategy of what Peter Bendix wants with this team and how he fits around everybody else. I'm assuming he's gonna be definitely like a little bit older of what our core is now, just so that way he can be like the vet of like the rookies or whatever, and like lead them and hopefully win games and stuff. But definitely, if we get anybody hitting wise, it's definitely gotta be a big bat that's gonna hit 25 plus home runs. I'm not going to say 30 plus, but definitely at least 25 and up to get there home run wise. And then of course we're going to get a lot of big names back. Kyle Stowers is going to come back from his injury that he had this last season, and he's going to come back healthy, and hopefully he continues on having another great season next year to show that this year wasn't a fluke. You know what I mean? So hopefully he builds upon that, gets even better, his all-star season, and makes another all-star team, wins a gold glove or something, or even a silver slugger. So we'll see what happens. By the way, speaking of awards, shout out to Javier Sanoja for winning a gold glove as a utility player in the MLB. So clap it up for him, clap it up for him. Well deserved. That man, that kid's really good. He can hit and he can field. So he's looking good so far in his young Marlins career. So a lot of good things are happening on the Marlins, I would say. We got a lot of talent. Again, it's just a matter of building upon it and like putting the right pieces together to again make that push to get into like a wild card spot at the least. Again, the NL East is definitely going to be just run by the Phillies moving forward until the Mets stop being the Mets and the Braves get back to their dominant ways. But for the most part, it's the Phillies division to lose. And I feel like at this point, this is the Marlins' chance to jump on the fact that the Braves are coming off a bad season. The fact that they're gonna jump on the Mets for having a disappointing end to their season, and again, just at least get to that wild card spot, and again, see what happens come September, October. So it's a matter of when. So we'll see what happens. But I think that's about it for what I have for this video for today. Oh wait, no, 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 no. Pause right there. Pause. I'm forgetting the big topic of the salary cap debate. Here's my thing. Here's my thing. Right. As a Marlins fan, I am I am a fan of a small market team, which I think I've said before that Miami shouldn't be a small market team, given the fact we are Miami. Who wouldn't want to come to Miami? But given the fact that our owner is cheap, doesn't want to spend, and our PVO and Peter Bendix doesn't want to go after the big names like a Pete Alonso, Kyle Schwarber, Kyle Tucker, which is never going to happen. We are a small market team, unfortunately, and of course we have probably the lowest payroll in all of MLB. As far as the salary cap goes, it's not gonna help anything. Is not gonna why would they think setting a salary cap is gonna help small market teams be more competitive? You know what I mean? Because that's just gonna be like, well, like let's say they set a salary cap of of freaking I don't know, just to throw up a random number. I know it's not the right number. 100 mil, right? 100 mil. Why? And if I'm a small market team like the Marlins, for example, if I see that's the max of 100 mil for the salary, and I already spend barely 40 mil in salary or whatever, for example, that's not going to make me change anything. I'm not going to be like, well, if that's the max, then I'm going to go to the max. No, that's not going to make me change anything. I'm going to just keep doing what I'm doing. And that's what I feel like a lot of small market teams with these cheap owners and owners that don't want to spend their money do. Like they're gonna want to just stay at where they're at. So if there's a cap, maybe it affects the big market teams with some big luxury tax or whatever, but that's not gonna matter to them either way. Like again, like with the Dodgers, like if you put a cap to them, they're not gonna care. You know how much money they rake in off of revenue, and they always put it right back into the team. So a luxury tax or whatever kind of tax or penalty is gonna come off of going over the cap, they're not gonna care. It's not gonna matter to them. They make basically billions of dollars in revenue that they can just cover that with no issue. So I feel like a cap doesn't work or is not gonna work, even if they do implement it. Is what's definitely needed, and I've seen a lot of people talk about is a salary floor. You set up, hey, teams, you got to start spending. You guys got to have maybe again random number, 55 to 60 mil spent on salary, and that's the floor. If you're not there, you're getting penalized. And billionaire and all these owners that are millionaires, billionaires, whatever, don't want to lose money off of not spending money, whatever. So they're just gonna spend the money. And I don't know. Maybe I'm bullshitting. Maybe I'm just talking, but I don't know. I feel like definitely a salary floor. Set up a minimum of what the salary should be across the MLB. Then that would make these small market teams like Miami, Colorado, the White Sox, the A's, like have them spend the money that these big market teams already are spending. Like, there's no reason to punish the Dodgers, truthfully, just because their owners are investing in the team. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what they're there for. They're there to invest. They're there to put to bring in big names to win championships like they're doing. That's why they gave Shohei Ohtani damn near $1 billion in his contract. Yeah, he deferred most of it um in like the back half of his contract, but he's he's basically a billionaire. And it's like again, like there's no there's no punishing big market teams because they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're spending the money. The Mets spent the money and got Juan Soto. Did it result in anything good? Unfortunately, no. But that's only the first season. Who knows what this next season comes, right? Then we got the Yankees, same thing. Cubs, same thing. Like these big market teams or these big teams that have the money, like they're they're investing in their team at least for the most part. So that's the reason why a salary cap isn't really gonna like affect anything. Small market teams are still gonna be small market teams. They're still gonna spend way less than the salary cap. Because again, like if you set it to 100 mil, the Marlins, Bruce Sherman is not gonna be like, that's the cap. You know what? I'm gonna just stick at what I'm doing because I'm way under the cap. I'm fine. I'm chilling. We're big chilling over here in Miami. No, like if you set up that floor and be like, hey, you guys got to spend the minimum of this, of let's say 55, 60 mil on salary, you guys got to reach this. If not, there's going to be big penalties. Then for the most part, then yeah, then that'll hopefully bolster them up to be like, I got to drop money. I got to drop money. I got to bring in players or whatever. Do something, right? Give bigger contracts to these names. But I don't know. In my opinion, I guess to wrap the whole thing up, salary cap is not going to do it. It's not going to cut it. Definitely a salary floor is more needed to push smaller market teams. But again, that's just all in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Whether you guys are down for a salary cap, salary floor, or what do you guys suggest um for or what do you guys suggest the MLB should do to fix, the problem of teams like the A's, Marlins, White Sox of just tanking seasons and not spending money. You know what I mean? Like, what would you do to make it better as a whole? So yeah, so that's all the time I got for this video. I didn't want to make it too long. I don't want to ramble on too long either. I can do that on stream, which by the way, brings me to my topic. You guys can follow me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/PowerSurge98. Please drop a follower. I'm trying to hit 100 at least by the end of the year. I'm at 90. I'm only 10 followers away. So that'd be greatly appreciated if I can get at least one off of this video. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you are new to the channel. I do post a lot more video game gameplay, but I'm again maybe with this starting point, I want to do more MLB topics and stuff like that. Maybe on a weekly basis if I can remember, of course. And yeah, I appreciate all the love and support from you guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.